Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. For today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by multi-million copy global bestseller Rosie Walsh to discuss her latest novel, The One Day You Were My Husband, which is out now. And if you haven't got yourself a copy yet, you are missing out, but you can find a link to buy one in the show notes. Rosie Walsh is a writer based in Devon. She came to writing after a career in factual television, which took her travelling all over the world. Rosie is the author of international bestsellers The Man Who Didn't Call, also known as Ghosted, and The Love of My Life. Both novels were instant New York Times bestsellers and have been published in 35 languages. Her latest novel, The One Day You Were My Husband, is a gripping and emotional novel of secrets, rebuilding your life after tragedy, motherhood, love, and loss. It's a beautiful book, and as I said, you should absolutely all go and read it. Here to discuss it with me, welcome Rosie to A Pair of Bookends.
Oh, Hannah, wow, what an introduction. I mean, right now I'm just a mum who's just got back from her daughter's sports day at school. And then I hear you reading all of that, and I'm like, wow, gosh, I sound very impressive rather than just a mum who hasn't even had a shower yet today.
You are so much more than just a mum who hasn't had a shower today, but
Well, thank you. That was a rip-roaring introduction, and it's
oh
nice to
God.
be here.
It's so lovely to get to sit and chat to you. I have already told you that I was a big fan of your debut, and I read it on a flight many years ago and absolutely loved it. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to you about your new book. But before we dive into that, I do like to ask what you're reading at the moment.
I'm reading something very special. Actually, this is something that I feel like going to be talking to a lot of people about. It's actually a memoir, and it's called An Ocean and a Day, and it's by a fellow novelist, Hannah Rochelle, and it's about her husband died 12 years ago in a surfing accident in Sydney, and at the time, Hannah was already writing a blog, a popular blog about her life as a writer, and she carried on writing the blog after his death to help her process her grief. And I cry every time I talk about that blog. I can't remember any piece of writing at any stage of my life that's affected me so profoundly. And when Hannah messaged me and said, could I send you an advanced copy of my memoir, which is about this and how she pieced her life back together and learnt to live with long-term grief, and whilst having to, still be a mother, still be a writer, still be a daughter, a sister, a friend, all of the many things that she is. I said yes, and then promptly burst into tears because it had been a while since I'd thought about, what happened to her. And I'm only a tiny way in, but I've been crying. It's hard to describe how beautifully she writes about grief and loss, and just the very unique and beautiful way that she has of just recording the experience of life.
I feel emotional just at the sound of that. It sounds beautiful. And yeah, I really, really need to get hold of a copy of that. I think
You do.
I love the way you just described that you go through something as awful as that, and grief is such a difficult thing for us to navigate, and it's something that each individual experiences completely differently, but just the expectation that you have to go on fulfilling all these different roles in your life and continue on as normal, as though there's not just been this huge explosion, it really astounds me. So yeah, I think I really need to read that.
Yeah, it is that, and I think in the book that we're here to talk about today, Carrie talks about that. My main character, about
Hmm.
how, like, basically a bomb has just exploded in her personal
Yeah.
life, and she's just looking around her like, but the sun keeps coming up each morning, and the world keeps turning, and people are going to shops and eating their breakfast and turning up for their jobs. Like, just the impossibility of what we can experience internally as humans, whilst life just rumbles on.
Hmm.
It's very unique, and I do think that trying to sell any book which has an incredibly tragic death at its center is a very, very tough job. My dear writer friend Ali Harris recently released a beautiful novel that was kind of based around her own experiences of baby loss, and yeah, we've had conversations about how impossible it felt at times to get people to even read it. But actually, as with anyone who's really truly processed their grief and allowed themselves to really feel it and to live it and to be in it, ultimately from that, even though it will never go away, comes huge personal development and unimaginable joy and progress in
Mm.
internally for us as human beings. It's a highly recommended read.
Yes, I am also very interested in the book that you said your friend is trying to get out into the world. I think Baby Loss is something that
It's already
continues to
out
be. It
actually.
is out. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
look Ellie up. It's she's done an absolutely beautiful job. She's an amazing woman.
I will absolutely be looking that up. I think it's so strange that grief and especially baby loss can be such a taboo
Mm.
topic when so many people experience it. But I think we should get into your book, because
Mm.
otherwise we will spiral off and talk about many other reads. I would love it if you could start by setting up the story for the listeners.
Yeah, sure. So one thing about the way I write is that I will not start a book unless I've got a one sentence elevator pitch. And that can't just be a one sentence précis of the book. It's got to be something that makes people go, "Oh, what?" If it hasn't got that effect, then I'm not writing it. And I have ditched many, many ideas because they don't have a strong enough elevator pitch. So the one sentence version is a young couple are dancing on the beach shortly after getting married until suddenly the beach is swarmed with armed men who take the groom away, never to be seen again. The long version of that is my two main characters, Carrie and Johan. They're in their 20s. Carrie is a trainee surgeon in the UK, and Johan is Swedish. He's a man of many jobs. And they are in Thailand briefly on holiday together because he's working in Asia. He's doing a diving job. And they've got married quite spontaneously on the beach. They're just incredibly happy. It's just a really luminous scene, fairy lights, beach, Thailand. It's just after a storm and the sea is calm. And yeah, and then suddenly a convoy of armed men arrive and take him away at gunpoint. And she kind of sprints up the track behind these vans, just like screaming and begging them to stop. And of course they don't. And then she's just standing there on a main road in Thailand in the middle of the night with her husband gone. And thus begins a very dramatic sequence of events that comes to dominate the next 12 years of her life. And when we meet her in the present day, she has remarried. She's very happy. She's got twins who are 6, and she's kind of all but given up on her surgical career because she had the twins were born ultra prematurely. But yeah, she's beginning to look at going back to work. Her life is beginning to really work again. She's feeling sort of internally very happy, and she's looking at going to Sweden for a conference for her work and also to talk to an old surgical mentor when, while she's looking for accommodation, she stumbles upon this beautiful house by the sea in Sweden, this summer house, and she clicks on it because she's really drawn to it, and she notices that the little avatar, the little photo of the owner, just looks like the guy that she married on the beach in Thailand all those years ago. And she pauses and she's like, "Oh my God, it really looks like him." And she zooms in, and then everything comes to a standstill because she realizes that it is him and that he has got out of Thailand. And when she looks him up, she discovers that he escaped 7 years ago, and that he's been in Stockholm all that time, starting a new life, and not once did he make any attempt to reach out to her.
It is
And as she,
such a wild premise.
yeah, so she's just sitting there staring at him, just like, oh my God, I'm going to Stockholm in 3 weeks. What do I do?
I was gobsmacked when I read that. I was absolutely gobsmacked. And I think I would really love for us to start with the opening chapter that you described. We've got this incredibly loved up couple. They've had this whirlwind romance. They're on the beach having this gorgeous intimate wedding. They're dancing, and then it becomes this complete nightmare. Like it's everybody's nightmare of like, I don't say nobody's really thought of this, have they? But I mean, like it would be your worst nightmare of thinking you're having like the best day of your life and then it descending into absolute chaos and having the person that you love torn away, nobody explaining anything to you, and never seeing them again. It's such a haunting scene. I wondered what inspired that first scene or that opening chapter.
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and also the emphasis on that first chapter, because with that first chapter, you're either invested in the novel or you're not.
Mm.
That chapter had to do a lot of heavy lifting, and it's only about, I don't know, 3.5, 4 pages long. The honest answer, though, is that it came from nowhere. It's just product of an author's mind. And I often hear authors talking about how they're just constantly getting book ideas and writing them down, and then the idea won't leave them alone. I am not that person. I mean, oh my God, trying to think up the idea for my next book is not something that that I have any space for until I've completely finished the last one. And then normally I'm just like, oh God, Oh God, oh God, oh God, I haven't got anything. With this one, I was in the final stages of editing the previous one when I basically got that image in my head, that moving picture, the two people dancing on a beach and the armed men suddenly just swarming the beach. It really came to me like that, which, seemed to me to be pretty prophetic and a sign that I needed to pursue that thought. And I think when a book idea does arrive for me, it's an opening door and I have to get through that door pretty quickly
Hmm.
because it won't stay open for long. And so I did, and I had no idea where it was going. I had no idea where they were, who they were. But, my experience is that as soon as I walk through that door, information just arrives. Like suddenly she's called Carrie. It took a while for her to become a surgeon. I couldn't work out what she was for quite a long time. But Johan, I had no plans to write a book about a Swedish man. I had no plans to visit Sweden twice to do my research, but that's how he came into it. And I did try and argue because I was like, well, I've already got to go to Thailand. I can't just keep jetting off across the world. I've got two really young kids. But in the end, no matter what I tried, like it was still Johan. It was still Johan from a town near Stockholm, and that was that. So that's how it had to be. And I went to Sweden twice,
I
which
am
was,
so jealous.
do you know what? It's amazing. I love that country.
Had
I,
you
I
been
haven't seen
before?
many loads of it. No, I've never been, and it's somewhere I'd always been really fascinated by. But I went on my own for about, I don't know, 3 days in February to visit Stockholm, so that I had enough to get started with because I'd already been to Thailand, and then I went again in late May with my family, which was a massive mistake. I mean, we had a lovely time as a family, but obviously. In terms of book research, I got sweet FA done. It was, but you know what? It was still enough. And I was there to take photos at the right time of the year of this cabin,
Hmm.
Johan's cabin that she sees online, because there is, there are later a few scenes there. And to just do the stuff that I do, like watch the water throughout the day. Like, what does it look like? What does the Baltic look like at different times of day? What does it sound like? What do the reeds sound like when they're blowing in the wind? Walk into the little sauna. Like, what's actually in there beyond a sauna? Like, where are the signs of human life? Who's been here? How do they live here? All the stuff that for me is essential. It's kind of just non-negotiable groundwork before I start properly writing. So I did get to at least do that, even though I
Hmm.
didn't really get to do much writing or plotting.
What parts of Thailand did you go to?
Well, I mean, not many, and I wanted to go further afield than I did. It was always a lot of it was going to take place in Bangkok. It kind of had to,
Yeah.
as you will know, and I won't. I don't want to give away any spoilers. The problem with this novel is that beyond that first scene, there's not a great deal.
No, you
Well, like the secrets start unfolding from the minute that the prologue is done. But yeah, a load of it had to take place in Bangkok. It couldn't
Mhm.
have happened anywhere else. And I wanted to, for the scenes where they've just got married, I wanted to return to quite a remote island that I backpacked to in my 20s. But that just wasn't viable. I mean, I had a little girl who was still in nappies.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. So I was in Bangkok for 3 nights, and then I was on Koh Samui for 3 nights because I could fly there. But I found the sort of remotest and most off the beaten track part of Koh Samui that I could, and it was actually fine. It was perfect, and I would love to say I had a blissful time there because I was staying at a tiny yoga retreat. But the truth was, after having spent so much time in Bangkok in like terrible places, like some of the most grueling, home to some of the most grueling experiences in human suffering. I was actually quite traumatized really by the time I got there. I was really on edge the whole time. I really struggled to settle and write and plot, which is what I normally do when I'm in situ. Again, like I got enough done, but it was really it had affected me far more than I could have imagined, the stuff that I'd seen and the stuff that I'd learnt in Bangkok. So yeah, I have to be honest, it wasn't the sort of peaceful seaside dream that
Oh,
I'd hoped for, but it was what I needed.
God, I'm sorry that it was not a great time there.
It's
I
really
mean, at least
disappointing.
yeah. God, I mean, you've clearly it's given you things to write about, so that's a positive. I went to Thailand when I was 22, I think I was. And I went with my best friend for 3 weeks, and we went all over, but we only spent 2 nights in Bangkok. It was like one either side of the trip. And then the rest of the time was spent, going around here, there, everywhere. So I didn't really get to see much of Bangkok. But now I'm kind of glad now you've said that. Because
No, Bangkok itself is amazing, but if you think about the locations that are in the book within Bangkok, like I went to some of the darkest places there are.
I'm
So
with you now. Sorry, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's why when I wasn't in those places, Bangkok was its usual joyous self. It was
Okay,
wonderful.
fair.
But yeah, I think when you spend that much time in really terrifying places,
It
it,
sort of
it
loses the
leaves an
shiny
imprint.
appeal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I would love to talk about Johan a little bit
Me
because they
too.
do have this whirlwind romance. He comes across as a very attractive man, and I wondered what you felt the sort of because. Of course, when people have these big whirlwind romances, they're often told by the people closest to them to be careful, rushing into things head first. But I wondered what you think the pull was for Carrie.
It's a lovely question. So, as most people listening to this won't by this point have read the book, I'll just give you a tiny bit of background about Carrie. Carrie is one of my favourite characters ever, within my own work. Like I said, she's a trainee surgeon. She's at, gosh, where is she? I think she's coming to the end of her core training. So she's nearly 4 years out of university by this point. So she's been in the system for 7 years already. And she is just utterly determined and relentless in her pursuit of excellence and precision. And she has a really wonderful mentor, a Greek female surgeon called Yannicka, who is like Carrie to the power of 1,000. She's kind of ferocious, fearless.
I found her terrifying.
Isn't she wonderful though? And
She's
she's
wonderful, but there's a moment where Carrie's crying and she's just brutal with her.
yeah.
But I do think sometimes you need that, don't you? You need somebody
Yeah.
to be firm with you.
You do, and actually, for somebody like Carrie, who has never really truly been in touch with her feelings at that stage in the book, it's kind of necessary. Anyway, so Carrie has lived her life according to the rules and done her very best and has been striving and hustling and pushing herself to her absolute limits her entire life. So when she meets Johan, this incredibly like relaxed, thoughtful, beautiful, very free man who is incredibly comfortable in his own skin and, obviously, lives by the basic rules of society too, but is not sort of nerdy or obsessed with order in the way that Carrie is. And of course, as the book progresses, we discover more about why she has, why in her childhood she became that way. And Johan offers her a completely new and unique perspective about life in general, I guess. He's everything that she's not, and yet he's wildly attracted to her and her incredible talent as a physician and a trainee surgeon. And so I think, yes, she is hugely attracted to him. I mean, I am. I don't know if you
Me
about
too.
you, but yeah, most of my readers have been like, wow, can I have his number? I feel the same. Yeah, I think he just represents an entirely different way of living. So yes, while she's attracted to him, he also opens up a part of herself that she didn't know existed. And that is I think all human beings at some point hopefully will have that experience where something or somebody comes along and wakes up a part of us that we didn't know was there, that we'd either kept suppressed or we just couldn't see.
Yeah.
So I think her attraction to him is way more than initially meets her eye. I don't think she even realizes at first quite what he's doing to her. And it's only really on her wedding day that she's beginning to catch up with kind of how she's been living and what it might feel like to live in the way that he does and to actually truly grab hold of and keep this incredible joy that she's
Mm.
finding in her heart. And of course, moments later, he's taken.
I mean, she had a quite rocky upbringing.
Mm.
She has a mum that was quite a committed activist when her and her sister were children, and it led to huge rifts in the family. I wondered, if you could tell us a bit about her family dynamic.
No, her mother, who for a long time was called Mac, which is a Malaysian mum, because her mum is half Malaysian, is just again a character that I utterly loved. She's a very compromised character, and by the end of the novel, there's no neat solution to her mother
Mhm.
and the great damage that she's caused Carrie and her sister. Because ultimately, her mum is, and there have been many women throughout history who've done this and will continue to, who will put their fight for justice, for human rights before their families and their children. And, I generally try and write books which are full of quite meaty moral dilemmas for people to argue over in book clubs. And I think Carrie and her sister's mum is one of the trickiest. And my relationship with her evolved during the writing, but from day one she's been, on the one hand cold and, frequently abandoned and let down her children and left both of them feeling anchorless in the world. On the other hand, she's a woman of absolute brilliance and unparalleled ability to bring about real and lasting change in the world.
Mm.
and to fight fights that nobody else will fight. So yeah, I really enjoyed writing her, and I also enjoyed reading more about activism. It's not been part of my life, but it's a really complicated thing. Like children of activists, how much do they want to be part of that life, and to what extent can you separate them from what you're doing? It's if you're really in it deep, I think it's very hard to really truly be there all of the time because
Yeah.
your whole body and nervous system is caught up in the fight.
Yeah. I do think her mum is a bit of a powerhouse. I did
Hmm.
come to really love that character. But I won't spoil anything because you really do go on a journey with that character. And I think her family is so interesting because they have, in some ways, they are emotionally distant, in some ways, they are physically distant in terms of her sister living quite far away. So she doesn't necessarily have a super close support network. They love each other, but, there are circumstances that have sort of spread them out a little bit, let's say. I want to get into Carrie's relationship with her children and with Robin, who is her second husband. And when we meet Carrie, she has twins. They are 6 years old, but when they were younger, she spent 6 years is it the NICU? Is that how you say it?
6 months in NICU, yeah.
NICU. I wondered if you could tell us a bit about writing that experience because I don't feel like it's an experience we hear about very often, and I don't think people necessarily understand how long-lasting the impact of that experience is.
So, to my great surprise, I found myself chatting to another mum one day at the play park who was not a surgeon, but very close to a surgeon in the medical world, being a surgeon in the medical world, and had also had the experience of having an ultra premature baby and having to live in NICU for months on end, and who had endured, terrible trauma as a
Hmm.
result. I don't think there can be a more frightening experience than watching your baby fighting for its life and not even being able to pick it up
Hmm.
and cuddle it, apart from, very occasionally, or for some of them not even at all for a long period of time. And again, that's the one with my research. I always gain access to institutions or people or organizations or whatever. That's the one that I didn't, because it just didn't feel right. I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to inconvenience anyone. I went in and I shadowed surgeons and so on, but that I didn't do. But thankfully, because I think the very nature of being a NICU mum means that, a lot of women come out of that experience ultimately needing to express themselves. So there's actually a great deal of written testimony online. There's books, and I managed to talk to a couple of people too, and some helpful charities about, what that feels like. And, ultimately all of that research was just condensed in the end to just a few lines here and there. Like Carrie doesn't really talk about it a great deal. It's more just kind of references to it, but it's more what I learned about how it would have shaped her as a mother and a human being, and the extent to which she could trust other people with her children, for example, or ever really truly relax as a mother.
Yeah, I mean, there's a moment that I'm thinking of specifically when I think it's her son, is, having issues with breathing that I think stem from being a premature baby. It's obviously had an impact on his immune system, and she cannot relax. She's checking that he's okay when he's sleeping. She's worried about his breathing. And she kind of talks about, well, she's thinking about how useless her medical training felt
Mm.
in the moment when they're in the NICU. So yeah, I thought it was really fascinating to read about like how long that impacts you. My younger sister was in the NICU when she was born, of course, and I was 15 at the time, so I don't have the greatest memory of what that was like, but she was literally the size of my hand, and it's just crazy to think that there was potential that she might not be here today, and now she's an incredibly gobby 16-year-old. So yeah, it's it was just fascinating to read about how long that sort of haunts Carrie for.
I
Yeah.
don't think it ever leaves you.
No.
It's the sense I get.
Yeah, that moment just really stayed with me. That scene where she's sort of resting her hand on his chest. I would love if we could get into actually her work as I was going to say surgeon, but it's not, is it? Is it physician? No.
No, so there's surgeons and doctors are generally classed as physicians. Physicians and surgeons are classed as surgeons. They're not actually, I didn't realize this, they're not all one and the same in the medical world. There's a lot that I had to learn. I knew that there were obviously, there were differences in the training, and generally you would spend more years training to become a consultant surgeon than you would other types of medical professions. But and I knew that surgeons were generally called Mr. and Mrs. rather than doctor. But it's not a career I knew anything much about. So I had to do vast amounts of research, and actually quite early on, well, to be honest, Hannah, throughout the entire book, I had many moments of just like, what on earth am I doing? Like this is too much. I've bitten off way more than I can chew, because the way that these people even think is different to the way that we think. Have a conversation with them, they're incapable of speaking in layman's terms. They don't have that because they've spent their entire adult lives in training, really. So had I written Carrie in third person, it might have been a bit easier because I wouldn't have had to live in her brain. But I generally narrate first person. I've tried third person before and it didn't really work for me. And so yeah, I had to narrate the story, the entire book, from her. And so I had to just spend a hell of a lot of time talking to surgeons, interviewing them, following them around, asking constant questions, begging them for just another 5-minute phone call. Like, could you possibly spare me a minute for this? Leaving endless voice notes. But really, that was towards the end. Mostly at the beginning, it was just constant interviews and shadowing and just trailing around. Not even asking them. Sometimes, further in, I would ask them about specific medical scenarios. But in the beginning, I would just ask them to tell me about their career and their lives and their training, and because I had to learn an entirely new vocabulary. And I think if you ask me questions now about the career progression of a surgeon, I would be relatively clued up. But by the end of it, I was pretty relieved. I'm not going to lie, because it was heavy. It
Yeah.
was really heavy, and yet obviously I can't transfer that heaviness to the page. It's got to be accessible. My readers don't read a load of unnecessary medical jargon. When you read a book and you're like, oh, I can tell the author's done loads of research here, and they can't quite bear to get rid of it. So like, it's like a research document. I mean, no criticism because I've been there, but
Yeah.
ultimately that's not what my readers want. They want it to be entirely believable and plausible, and to take them into a world they don't know, to take them right in. But they don't want to be bogged down with like interminable medical details. So I had to absorb all of that, but work out how to then re-communicate it back out to my readers in a digestible format.
I mean, it's such a fascinating job. I went through a phase in my early 20s of being completely obsessed with Grey's Anatomy, and now I'm
Me
obsessed with The
too.
Pit. And
Yeah.
I watched these shows and I convinced myself that I could do that, and I absolutely couldn't. Like the amount of exams and training that they have to go to and the amount that they give up in their personal lives is just. But I do watch those shows and go, I wonder if you put me in an operating theatre, how would I actually cope?
I'd be calling for McDreamy person.
Stop.
Get that man in my theatre.
Absolutely. There's some lookers on The Pit as well. Have you seen The Pit?
I have not, but I've heard about it.
It's so good. It's so good. If you've not seen it,
Okay.
definitely watch it. It's
Okay.
really, really good. I would love to ask about the sort of twist in the book, because we obviously can't get into the specifics, but I wondered how you sort of map those out. How do you make them feel as surprising as they do?
Once you've got the twist, you're over the hill. Like you've got it. So the working out how to deliver it can at times be tricky and fiddly, but ultimately it's quite eminently, it's like the breaking new ground of a book. Like for me, for some writers, that's actually the easiest part, and they hate the editing. I'm the other way around. Like the breaking new ground, the walking through treacle, trying to produce a book. The first draft is agonizing for me. So I think once you've got your twist, really it's just a question of finessing the delivery. And that can involve some really heavy lifting and, big structural work. But ultimately, once you have the huge relief of like, oh, okay, I know what it is now. I
Mhm.
know what it is now. All I've got to do is organize it. That's the thing. And for me, each time the thinking up the twist is the hardest bit, and I can't really relax. Like my nervous system is just always on edge and scanning, just warning me of danger until I've got the twist. And I think yesterday I nailed it finally. I've only been working on this book for, well, months. And yes, of course I can and do start the books before I have the twist in my head, but at some point, you know it's got there's only a few people it could be. There's only a few situations that it could involve if it's not people. Like there's not a great big pool, but it has to be the least expected place. That's the thing. And you've got to find other suspects too. No twist. There's no point in having a twist without a whole load of red herrings. And what you want is for it's for readers, especially other authors, to think, I think I've got it. I know she thinks that I'm going to think that it's that thing, but I actually think it's this thing. I should probably, oh God, should I tell Rosie or not? I actually got it. And then 20 pages later, you want them to go, oh my God, I thought I knew. I did not see that coming. Like for me, it's only a success if absolutely nobody's guessed it. No, nobody's written to me yet to say they did. I'm sure somebody has somewhere, but
No, I didn't.
yet.
I didn't. I was really surprised. Multiple times, actually, I was really surprised. Just with you bringing up other authors, I wondered if there was any authors that you feel are great at sort of landing the twist.
Do you know what? Probably yes. They're unlikely to spring to mind because although I do get some, because my books are, well, people seem to call them emotional thrillers, which works for me. But they're really epic love stories. But they read at the pace of a thriller, and this one in particular also, even had a bit of crime in it. So I do actually get some crime and thriller books, but not that often.
Mhm.
But I'm deluged with, books that are roughly similar to mine. So to be honest, as a reader, I just don't get time to read crime books, and I know I should because they're a masterclass in twists. And it would probably be really helpful. But, like most writers, my to be read pile of book proofs is overwhelming
Yeah,
all the time,
I
all year
feel
long,
you. I feel
always.
you.
I know you do. It makes me feel sick sometimes when I look at that pile.
Yeah.
So and so many of them are my friends as well. Or, even if they're not my friends, they're people who I want to support.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I can't know until I've actually read the book, but I want to help. I want to help other writers.
Yeah.
I want to support other writers. So generally, unfortunately, I'm just always reading books that have been sent to me for review. So I haven't read loads of twisty novels lately. I wish I had.
Have you read Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild?
No.
No. I would really recommend that. Even if you just read the first chapter and see what you think, and then decide if you're going to keep going.
Okay.
That's all
Okay.
I'm going to say to you.
Okay.
Sorry to add to your never-ending
No,
TBR pile,
no,
but
no. Send me a message and remind me.
I will, I will, I will.
That's a pretty good recommendation.
Yes. I would love if we could finish up by I do like to finish by asking for a recommendation, but I'm going to squeeze in. You did mention that you're writing something else at the moment. So what is next for you?
This one is going to take me to an uncomfortable place in terms of writing sex scenes. I can tell you that. That's not something I normally do, but it feels absolutely necessary for this one. What can I say about this?
I'm already intrigued.
There's a big age gap romance.
Okay.
There is a really big long-term love triangle, and it's set in a diplomatic world.
Hmm.
Some of it takes place in Chicago, some of it takes place in Lisbon, some of it takes place in Dorset.
Are you just choosing places that you want to visit?
I went to Chicago in April and I went to Portugal to Lisbon in at the end of February, and I was going to go back this summer and try and get myself an invite to the King's birthday party celebrations at the British Embassy or the ambassador's residence, but sadly they didn't do one this year. Damn it. So yeah, I do need to go back at some point and try and worm my way into something because I need to attend a really big snazzy event that's been put on by the embassy. I will get there. It'll happen. They were absolutely amazing actually. They were so friendly and helpful. I loved that was such a great trip. I fell completely in love with Lisbon. But yeah, I'm unlikely to set a book somewhere that I don't want to visit. You're quite right.
I mean, Lisbon's a beautiful place. I love it there.
You think?
Um, and I would love to go to Chicago as well. So
Oh God,
yeah.
I adored both of them. Like in both situations, I was properly imagining like, oh, could I just move my family here?
Surely.
Wouldn't mind. We only moved to Devon a few years ago. Let's now just move to
That's
Chicago.
fine. If you move once, they can get used to
Yeah,
moving again.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this new book. It sounds amazing. Love Triangle, the age gap romance. I'm sold. I would love to, yeah. I hope that we can nab you back in the future to chat about that one. Before I let you go, Rosie, though, I do like to finish on a recommendation. So is there anything that you would like to recommend to the listeners?
Yes. I have just finished Ashley Audrain's latest, and oh my God, she has. I do not know how she writes the way she does. It's called The Things You'll Never Know. And I think it's the end of chapter one, I was sobbing. I mean, this is literally a few pages in, and to care that much that you're not just a bit teary but sobbing, I think is for the writer a huge achievement. And by the very final lines, when the true meaning of the title finally was revealed, I was literally yelling out loud. I couldn't bear it. It was so horrifying and so brilliant. And she actually writes about the fury and despair and overwhelming love and beauty of motherhood like nobody. I mean, she's just peerless in that respect. Nobody writes motherhood like she does. It's suspenseful, it's dark, it takes us very deep into like female rage, female despair, and the things we do to try and make people happy. It's Oh my God, it's such an outstanding novel. I couldn't gush enough when I sent my review quote to the publishers. They were like, "Yeah, we might need to trim that down a bit." Is that okay? It was
Did
like 2 paragraphs long.
did Ashley write the Push?
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't read that yet. I've had it on my shelf for ages
you
and
are
I've still not
missing
read it.
out.
So yeah, I need to get to that. You've just reminded me.
It's oh, she's a writer in a million. She really is.
Okay, I will push that up to the top of my TBR and when's the next book out? Is it already out, this new one?
The one that I'm just talking about, the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
No, when is it out? I think it's at the end of this year. It might be at the very beginning of 27.
yeah. Okay. What's it called? The
Um,
Things You'll
The
Never.
Things You'll Never Know. I think it's available for pre-order. I'm sure I saw something on her
Yeah.
Instagram, but
January 2027.
there we
So
go. It's
yeah.
one to pre-order now, so you've got an incredible treat waiting for you after
Okay.
Christmas, is what I
I
would say.
will pre-order that for
They're
myself
being
and I
celebrated.
will pop a pre-order link in the show notes for everyone. Those are great recommendations.
Oh.
But thank you so much, Rosie. I'm so glad that we've got to do this, and I absolutely loved this book, and I, of course, loved your debut, as I've already said. So, for the listeners, I will be popping links in the show notes for you to grab all of Rosie's books, but please do get her latest, The One Day You and My Husband. It's brilliant, it's twisty, it's just full of all my favorite things, complex families, complicated relationships, love. It's just brilliant. So yes, everyone go grab yourselves a copy. And yeah, Rosie, I just want to say thank you again for coming on A Pair of Bookends.
Oh, Hannah, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And can the listeners find you online anywhere?
Yes, I'm on Instagram. I'm a working mum. I can't take on any more, so it's
No,
just Instagram.
just Instagram. And I will link that in the show notes also. Listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And you can find us over on Instagram at Pair of Bookends Pod and at Pair of Bookends on TikTok. We are also on Patreon. Like I said, go buy Rosie's new book and go give Rosie a follow. That is all we've got time for. Thank you so much again, Rosie, and thank you, listeners, for listening. Bye.